Hey everyone, welcome to High Heels and Hay Bales, the podcast where polished meets practical, legal meets lifestyle, and debt meets dirt.
I'm Kristen, your resident farm lady, keeping it real about motherhood, homesteading, and the funny side of figuring out life.
And I'm Adrienne, aka the Ladylike Lawyer. I'm here to help you make sense of money, debt, and the legal stuff without boring you to tears.
So kick off your boots or heels and let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Well, welcome back. We've got another episode of High Heels and Hay Bales coming at you. And Kristen, today I'm going to open up with this question. Have you ever walked into a room and thought, surely they meant to invite somebody else? Does that feeling sound familiar?
Way more times than I care to admit. I think we're talking about what? Imposter syndrome?
That's the topic today. You have figured it out. Ding, 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 ding.
We've only been throwing this around for weeks at this point.
Yeah. I think we keep talking around it. And finally we decided, you know what? We should actually dive into this because I think that it's really something that particularly, like when I came to this episode, I've always thought to myself that imposter syndrome seems to be something that women experience more than men. I came to this subject thinking this simply because of my own life experiences, and we'll get into those. And, I think it's a really important topic for us to be talking about because as we go through this, I think all of us, I think anybody who's not at the top of any pyramid feels this way. And even if we are maybe at the top of the pyramid, we feel this way. And that's kind of the point. So I'm very excited to dive into this today. And, do you know that imposter syndrome is actually defined as a psychological experience causes people to doubt their skills and their success?
I only know this because I too Googled this because again, we've been talking about it and for the longest time I didn't understand what it was. And I at one point wanted to know because everybody kept saying, oh, that's just imposter syndrome. You kept saying when I would tell you a situation, oh, that's imposter syndrome. And I'm like, I'm not an imposter. Like, I don't know what the hell that means. So I had to dumb it down. It's basically feeling like you don't deserve the success that you've gotten yourself, built for yourself or whatever. So, my example is this freaking farmer's market. I've got the city behind me. I've got the library. I've had so many meetings. I'm a freaking farmer, man. I don't go to meetings. I send emails and hope somebody calls me back. I was at the library, city hall, different organizations. I'm like, and everybody's like, oh, this is great. You're so wonderful. And I'm like, no, I'm not. This isn't that big of a deal. It's not, I'm not seeing, I am like, oh, this is kind of a big deal, but I really don't deserve these accolades because it's weird.
What I'm hearing, Kristen, is that you are experiencing feelings of inadequacy.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be fair?
Mm-hmm.
And you continually tell yourself that the words of success and the words of affirmation that people are giving to you are undeserved, even when evidence suggests otherwise. That's really the definition of imposter syndrome. And I think, it's so interesting to break this down because, as a woman in a law firm, in a legal field, I did not understand that I had imposter syndrome most of my career. When I first started to understand what it was, I started to recognize it rather significantly in my own self. It's having recognized it and started to work through it. Everybody knows I see a therapist. My therapist and I work through a lot of this stuff, but it has taken me to the age of 53 and almost 54 to get to a place where I can better tell myself what I deserve and where, that I'm allowed to be here. And most of the time I just don't feel like anybody should let me in. Right.
Well, I've noticed that you've written a book and you're like, pumping the book, and then you're like, I'm not really here. This isn't really, a big deal. And I'm like, it is.
Yeah.
But you're telling yourself it's not. And I'm like, damn it, Adrienne, we're doing this like out loud now.
Yeah. 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 So my book literally came out, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
It's been 2 weeks. And I have to tell you, since my publisher, gave me the final draft and everything, I looked at it and I realized how small it is, right? Like, it seemed really thin. And I have to tell you, Kristen, I had such feelings of anxiety and imposter syndrome because, I'm wringing my hands right now. I'm nervous just talking about it. I'm really afraid. I've been afraid that judges and trustees and other lawyers are going to read it and they're going to be like, oh my God, this is so simplistic. Like, I could have written this on the can, And to me, I know what I set out to do. I set out to make a very simple, easily understandable book for regular people. Mm-hmm. But even though I did exactly what I set out to do, I am so anxious that there is a mistake in this book that somebody important is going to call me and yell at me about and tell me I'm stupid and how could I have ever put a book out? Whoever let me do that? I have those feelings right now as we sit here, and I'm working through them. I acknowledge them. I'm using a lot of the skills that my therapist has taught me. We use cognitive restructuring and self-compassion, right? These things are so cheesy and weird that we have to start doing this in order just to simply accept that I've written a book,
right? Yep.
And I'm like, it's 99 cents. I'm not even going to change the price because I feel embarrassed to make people pay more for it because I just want them to get it, So mm-hmm. That's self-sabotage too.
Oh yeah.
I'm hearing what you're saying. It completely undermines all the work I put in it and undermines really the purpose of it. So I'm working through that because I'm very proud of this book. And I've been working on getting to the point where I don't frickin' care, mm-hmm. but I'm now starting to get feedback from people that they are and that it is helpful. So that's going to help me. But yep. Why would I know that there are a lot of men, lawyers that I've worked with, that I know, that I adore, who would not have these feelings. They just simply would not understand these feelings. And that's the part that's odd.
So first of all, you're not an imposter. You're a badass with anxiety. That's how I'm looking at this today.
That's true.
But we live in a male-led society. And so the men can do whatever they want. And the women have to work 50 times harder. Not even just women, marginalized communities, anything that isn't a cis white male. And I say that truly. That chunk of people have the world, and the rest of us have to work so much harder to just get them to say, oh, like almost respect us. Yeah, if that makes sense.
I want to say that having been in a male dominated world, I do see imposter syndrome in men as well. But what I will say is that when I saw a man in my orbit who was having these types of feelings, the other men kind of bunch around them and lifted them up and made them feel like they were doing exactly what they needed to. It was a very natural response on the part of the other men. The difference is that I never let anybody know how anxious I was. Nobody would ever come and put their arms around me because I didn't want them to know I didn't know. Right. Mm-hmm. And so part of it is, there's no question that women, marginalized groups, we are going to naturally have more imposter syndrome simply as a function of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I do also want to go back to what you touched on, and that is that, I want to be very clear. Imposter syndrome is often, found alongside of anxiety and depression
Mm-hmm.
or depression. And of course, trauma can
Yep.
complicate this whole concept as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, white men are not immune from depression, anxiety, and trauma and all those
Right.
things. And I don't want to minimize, and I certainly don't want to suggest that they have everything better off. But I will say that the difference is that they have a better sense of community when it comes to that, right? Men want to lift them up. You're doing great. No, you got this. Level up, bro. They're not doing that with women.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not feeling like we have the right or the space to enter in and do that as well. And it looks different for us.
It
so
does.
The fact that I didn't have other women around me or
Mm-hmm.
other people who understood my situation is what perpetuated the problem for me.
Right. We actually had a conversation yesterday. My husband and I bought a truck, and it's been a whole thing. But his buddy came over. My husband was not happy about this truck. Okay, this might have nothing to do with imposter syndrome, but maybe it's more along the lines of this whole male thing. I had to push my husband into a better financial decision, even though I was like, I still don't know if this is a great idea. And he didn't like this truck, didn't like the color of the truck. And his buddy came over, and it was like watching, it was so weird. Like, this guy was like talking up this truck and telling Jeremy what a great job he did and how he made such a good deal. And then all of a sudden, Jeremy's entire like outward appearance about this truck changed.
That's what I'm saying.
And I was
That's
like,
what I'm saying.
I'm your wife. I just helped you save a shit ton of money and got you into a truck that's better, safer, nicer. And he's like, what? So yeah, like that's it's hard to see women do that. I mean, there are sometimes communities, I don't know where they are. Well, I mean, where women are like, let's just fix your crown, do that. That's great. Hold each other up, lift each other up, get each other through this. But for some reason, women are a lot, maybe it's because we're all having to go through everything and push 10 times harder. It's harder to help everybody around us. I don't know.
Well, not only that, but I mean, I don't think there's any question that fundamentally and deep down, it's entirely possible that men don't value the opinion of women quite as much. And I think that's, is that really imposter syndrome, or is that reality sometimes for us? Because but that goes to show why we suffer from it and why men suffer from it less, because your husband had somebody pumping him up and selling him, buying what he's selling, he's picking up what he's laying down. But we don't seem to have that persuasiveness. Why don't we have that persuasiveness? Is it because we're naturally too not sure of ourselves? Is it because systemically we've been told to keep our mouths shut and smile and be nice? I mean, there's all these things, right?
Oh, yeah.
But here's the thing. Here's what I learned, Kristen, while researching this. Did you know that there's more than one type of imposter syndrome? I didn't know that.
I didn't until you told me, and then immediately didn't want to record. I wanted to find all the information out. So I need you to educate me very quickly.
Okay, so here's what I found out. All right. So there is this amazing, this amazing person who's on the cutting edge of imposter syndrome. Her name is Dr. Valerie Young. She's widely considered to be the world's foremost expert on imposter syndrome. And what she did was she broke it down and she came up with 5 different types. Okay. So I'm going to read through the types. And then, Kristen, I'm going to give you a quiz. So see what type you are. Okay.
Have you taken the quiz for yourself?
No, I haven't. I've not taken the quiz for myself. It's only 5 questions. It's not complicated.
Okay.
But it's only 5 questions, and I'll do it with you.
Okay.
All right. So the 5 types. Type number 1 is called the perfectionist. Okay. And here's the belief. All right. The belief is If I don't do it perfectly, I have failed. All right. How does it show up? How would you recognize this in someone? It'd be like obsessing over details, procrastinating, never satisfied. Okay. A little bit of this sounds familiar. All right. There's threads throughout all of them. But the telltale sign is that you focus more on what went wrong than what went right. Okay. That's like glass half empty.
Right.
Okay? That's number one, perfectionist. I don't do it perfectly. I failed. Focus more on what you failed as what you did right. Number two, the second type is going to be the expert. And the expert believes they need to know everything before they speak up. It tends to show up when people are reluctant to try new things or apply for roles for which they are not 100% qualified. And the telltale sign is that you undervalue your existence. You undervalue your own knowledge base because you're not the best at it, right? That's number two. That's the expert.
These are all stinging me really hard.
It's like Dr. Valerie Young crawled into our brains and just started picking out all of the things that we know to be true that we don't want to admit, right? So number three is going to be the natural genius. And these people, they don't think they're natural geniuses. They think that if they were smart, this would come easy. It shows up in ways that when you have a struggle or a setback, you say to yourself, this is proof I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not any enough. Okay? That's the natural genius. You give up quickly. That's the telltale sign. You give up quickly when something doesn't click right away. Okay. Again, a lot of these are also sound a lot like ADHD too.
Yeah. I'm like, crap. How am I going to I'm all of, can you be all of them?
Okay. Number four is the soloist. This is the belief you have to do it all by yourself. How does this show up? You refuse help. You don't delegate. You think asking for support is weakness. And the telltale sign is that you see independence as proof of worth. Okay? That's the soloist.
Shit.
And the last one is the superhero. All right? This is going to be the superhero believes I must excel in every area of life in order to be worthy. All right? How does this show up? Juggling 10 roles at once, burning out, trying to prove you're enough, right? Telltale sign, you measure success by how much you're doing, not how well you're doing. All right? So we got the perfectionist. If I don't do it perfectly, I failed. The expert, I need to know everything before I speak up. The natural genius, if I were really smart, this would be easy. The soloist, I have to do this all by myself in order to show my worth. Or the superhero, you measure success by how much you're doing, not by how well you're doing.
Okay, so I'm going to stop. I don't even need to take the quiz. I know what it is now.
No. Write it down. Write down what you think you are. Don't tell me, since we haven't done this. I want you to write down what you think you are, and I'll write down what I think I am. Okay? And then we'll both take the quiz. All right?
All right. Here's the other thing. I could be all of them.
Yeah, that's clear. I think we are both a little bit of all of them. This feels like the difference between between a chicken tender and a cut up chicken breast at this point.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Kristen and Adrienne. All right. Question number 1. What is your gut reaction when someone compliments your work? A, yeah, but they didn't see the mistakes. B, if they knew how little I actually know. C, it wasn't that hard. D, thanks, but I had to figure it out all on my own. Or E, well, I had no choice. I had to get it done. A, B, C, D, or E. Sure, but they didn't see the mistakes. If they knew how little I actually know, it wasn't that hard. Thanks, but I had to figure it out all on my own. Well, I had no choice. I had to get it done.
Yeah, okay. All right. Man, I could answer 3 things for that.
Pick one. Pick the best one.
I did.
Well, tell me what it is.
Oh, I'm supposed to tell you?
A, B, C, D, or E. Yeah. E. Okay. Number 2, you're asked to lead a new project outside of your comfort zone. Ooh, This sounds familiar. Miss Farmer's Market.
Mm-hmm.
What do? Do you obsess over the details to avoid failing? A. B. Do you research until your eyes bleed before saying yes? C. Do you think if I were smart enough, I'd already know how to do this? D. Say yes, but refuse to ask for help. Or E. Add it to your plate even though you're already drowning.
Okay. D.
Okay. Number 3, which internal monologue sounds the most familiar? I would love to hear how some of our followers are following along on this. Keep following, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to tell you what kind of imposter syndrome you have too. So, what internal monologue sounds the most familiar, Kristen? A, if it's not perfect, it doesn't count. B, I can't speak up until I learn everything. C, smart people don't struggle like this. D, I should be able to handle this by myself. Or E, I can't let anyone see me drop the ball on anything.
I'm seeing a trend in my own answers here. Damn. E.
Okay. Number 4, when something goes wrong, you usually blame A, yourself for not doing it perfectly. B, yourself for not being knowledgeable enough. C, yourself for not getting it instantly. D, yourself for needing support. Or E, yourself for letting somebody down. So A, all of these are yourself, but A, because you didn't do it perfect. B, because you're not knowledgeable enough. C, you're not figuring it out instantly. D, you need support but won't ask for it. Or E, you're letting somebody down.
E. I think. Yeah. We're gonna go E.
All right, last question. Your success feels the most legitimate when it is flawless and praised. A. B. You've mastered every detail. C. You didn't have to struggle. D. You did it completely alone. Or E. You crushed every area of your life simultaneously.
D.
D. Okay. So.
I mean, yeah.
All right. So here's what I did. If you are mostly A's, of course, you're the perfectionist. If you're mostly B's, you are the expert. You're not either one of those.
Mm-mm.
If you're mostly C's, no, you are not the natural genius.
I thought I was.
I would have thought I actually pegged you as the superhero. So, but you end up being I pegged you as a soloist or a superhero, to be honest, and you're a little bit more soloist and a little bit of superhero.
I thought it was how many? I had 3 E's and 2 D's.
1, 2, 3 E's and 2 D's. E's, I'm sorry. E's are the superhero. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes, you're right. You are right. You're more superhero than soloist.
Get the
2 D's and 3 E's Kristen got. So what did I get? So every single question,
the one I want to know.
I wrote 2 answers down for every question because I am overly. And I am either an expert or the superhero. Mm-hmm. I get very uncomfortable when, if I'm going to start something, I got to go research it, figure out as much as I can about it so I don't sound like an idiot. Mm-hmm. Right? Like even with these podcasts, every time we pick a subject, I got to go research it so that I feel like I can get through the podcast, making sure that we're conveying important information. It feels so important to me to make sure that we get the information.
So
and
now
I don't
that
tell
I know
people the wrong things.
Well, now that I know you were writing down 2 answers, I kind of want to retake the test. But I do the same thing. I do the same thing. Yeah. But I'm definitely I can see that 100%.
I got 4 B's and 4 E's. I did. So I was, and the other 2 were C's. So I'm definitely not an A or a D. I'm not in a position where I feel like I have to do it all myself.
Yeah.
That is something I've mastered. I'm fairly comfortable with what I'm not good at. So I really try to delegate the things I know I'm not good at to somebody else, because I know I'm not perfect at it and I don't want to get blamed for any problems.
I know. I'm like, see, this is where it gets I mean, I'm working on this whole refusal to ask for help thing in therapy. It's not going very well, actually, because I don't want to talk about it with her. And sorry if you're listening to this, therapist. Shit, I forgot I gave you the links. Anyway.
Yeah, it's tough to take a really good look at yourself and to acknowledge what you're doing, what's going on. I do want to we want to circle back to this. Dr. Valerie Young has a website. She has an amazing book called The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women. And I'm pretty sure we'll have her website up. I'm pretty sure it's Imposter Syndrome Institute.com. I'll find that out. And we'll make sure that it's available on our website. But she's clearly the leading expert on this, and uncomfortable lane for me in this moment. But I also want to say that it's very natural that we notice that this is a problem with women and people in marginalized communities more so, because as I was doing my research, I realized that Dr. Valerie Young, who really she's the leading expert on this. She has become quite famous for addressing the intersection between imposter syndrome and DEI. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, recognizing that LGBTQ, women, people of color, people impoverished, they struggle more, of course, with imposter syndrome simply because of the institutional, need that's been on their necks. So
absolutely.
I know DEI is a controversial subject in this moment, but, it's very clear that, notwithstanding what some people think, the reality is that there are deep-seated advantages created for certain groups of people. And I'm white, so I will say that I have some inherent advantages, and I recognize that. But I just try to work hard to acknowledge those natural biases that I have, and try to move away from them or try to work against them whenever I notice them. I think that other people just don't want to acknowledge that they might have some deep rooted institutional feelings that they don't understand. And so,
for sure.
I think that's why a lot of the DEI stuff, but I think that it is, of course, relevant that people who are struggling more are going to have more problems with depression, anxiety, imposter syndrome. They probably also experienced traumas, on a higher, a higher level. So this stuff all comes together. It does. It all comes together.
I made a TikTok video asking people to send me their imposter syndrome stories. I got a couple people that messaged me, and one that stuck out to me was a young lady who's a young mom, always lived in, impoverished communities and things. And I didn't realize that imposter syndrome could also be I don't know how to say this, where you live. You could feel like an imposter in the neighborhood you've moved into. She had lived in the poor side of town, and then was given, like, their living situation improved, so they moved to the nicer side of town, like the nicest side of town. And even though they were still in, government housing or things like that, they were close to the nice schools, close to all of the nice things. And she said she felt like an imposter living there. Like she had to put on this facade that everything was cool and she deserved to be there, but she didn't feel like it. And I never thought of, housing being that way. And after thinking about it, I thought, well, it kind of does make sense, because if I were to buy a house where you live, I would feel so out of place and have to fake this neighborhood
suburban life.
Right. I couldn't do it. And so, it's weird how all of that, there's different facets of this, not just in our work or our public lives. It's other things like housing situations.
No, I can totally see that. And when you said that, my mind, as the bankruptcy lawyer, immediately goes to people who come into money very quickly, right? You think of you know, young people coming into college, you know, now and have access to a lot of money and fame, you know, just graduating from high school in these young years. You think, I mean, it is, imagine coming from a low socioeconomic group and then, you know, suddenly having a lot of money. You have a lot of responsibilities. You don't know what to do. You don't understand. Nobody has sat you down and said taxes and 401ks and, you know, building up a fund so that you can have passive income, right? If you spend everything you've got, you'll never have a fund that you can. And so these, whether it's them or whether you win the lottery, you see so many people who come into money who struggle because they don't realize they've got imposter syndrome. They don't ask the questions. They think they need to do everything perfectly, right? As the perfectionist, they think that they undervalue their own existence in being there. And they say to themselves that if I were smart, I'd understand how to handle this money. If I were smart, I would know where to go. I would know who to talk to. The soloist, the belief that they can do it all by themselves. I've gotten this far in life. People love me. I'm talented. I should be able to do this. And the superhero, you know, I need to save everybody. I need to take care of my family. I need to figure it all out, even though I don't know any of this information. It's no different anywhere else. And again, you know, acknowledging it and realizing that the ability to know everything about everything is impossible. And any type of belief that you could ever move forward in the world knowing enough to never have to ask questions or for everything to come easy to you or to do everything all by yourself, to excel at everything. The ability to do that's unreasonable. We're never going to do that. Nobody is ever going to do that.
Imposter syndrome, I don't know that I ever thought of it until recently, because even though I'm sure I dealt with it, you know, when I was given bigger, better jobs, better pay, or I finish a project and get all the, you know, slaps on the back from everybody. And I still have to figure out, well, maybe I don't have to figure this out. Maybe this is part of the problem. I don't need to figure this out. I still am like, yeah, whatever. It is what I just have to do it. I have to get it done. Like, it blows my mind. My husband's like, I didn't get it done. I'm like, how can you leave? How can you not do that? How? No, that's not possible. And I
want to be able to say that, Kristen.
Yes.
I cannot naturally say that. That would cause me so much anxiety.
Right.
I worry about the commitments that I make. People have expectations. But yet my expectations of other people are very low.
Right.
Why am I increasing what I'm doing for some perceived whatnot when nobody seems to be doing that for me? And so maybe I'm trying too hard.
Again, going back to, I think we talked about this, I don't remember when, but you know, we both came from parents who worked constantly, and we had to do all the things. And we were basically raising ourselves.
Yep.
And so we had to make it look like everything was perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's part of it. Again, coming from that childhood stuff. I should have been a therapist. Probably not. I'd have been a terrible therapist. But I think that does have something to do with it.
Wonder if imposter syndrome, this is interesting. I should have looked this up before we did this. I wonder if imposter syndrome is more common in like Gen Xers and millennials than it is in like boomers or Gen Zers, right? Like
I would assume so.
I wonder what that is, because it feels like the boomers set a lot of us up for this.
Well, yeah, that's what
I don't like to pile on the boomers because my husband is one, but I do want to say my husband is an enlightened. He is not a typical boomer.
Right.
So when I'm giggling about boomers, I'm never referring to him. I'm usually referring to my parents. No, my parents are great people too. I'm referring to their friends.
Yeah. Listen, so when does boomers end and Gen X start?
I think it's like 1960.
I
Boomers
think it's
were
64.
might be
I'm
64.
pretty sure it's 64 because both of my parents, they're boomers, and my dad passed away 12, 13 years ago, and he was very much like Scott, very on a lot of levels. And so it was like being raised by a Gen Xer. Maybe he was just a hippie. Um,
Listen, I just Googled this. And did you know, this is my guess, this was my assumption, is that imposter syndrome would be more common in the millennial age category than any. That's what it just said, isn't it?
yeah,
Imposter syndrome is indeed more common in millennials compared to older generations because we've attributing a combination of factors: increased societal pressures for success in a digital age, social media comparisons, and experiences of growing up during the 2008 recession. So you're a millennial, I'm a Gen Xer. We were just taught to stop giving a crap, you know. So,
I asked ChatGPT, and this is what she says. Why boomers tend to report it less. Cultural messaging. Boomers were often raised in a fake it till you make it and just get it done environment. Emotions weren't as openly discussed, and questioning your worth wasn't exactly encouraged, which was pushed onto us. And so there's that. And then there's also less language for it. So there wasn't a label back then. And boomers, most likely, and we talked about this before, they were the ones that had the 50-year careers on one track, right?
Right.
They started a job and worked up the ladder. And there were the promotions and tenure and retirement benefits and all of that structure. It reduced that internal chaos and everything that breeds the imposter syndrome. So totally makes sense. And then we get hit with it, obviously, because we were raised by the boomers. And then we have the hustle culture.
Yeah.
We have social media, like you said. You know, I have 60,000 followers. You have 100 and some thousand followers. There's days I'm like, how the hell do 60,000? Why are they listening to me? Jesus. And I see people, another creator on TikTok I saw just the other day, she's got a couple million followers. She's like, I don't know why you guys follow me or listen to me. I am nothing. And so it's not just little creators. It's the big ones too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It is complicated. Obviously, we've been throwing the boomers under the bus here, but you know, imposter syndrome comes from a lot of different sources. It's going to come from, you know, cultural perfectionism, right? Comparison. I think Instagram and LinkedIn are real big examples of that. There's a difference between Instagram and TikTok, and there's a reason that you and I hang out on TikTok more often because it's more gritty, it's more real, it's less glossy and fakey, right? Like that's what attracted us to TikTok, to that platform.
Absolutely.
Because it's just overwhelming a lot of times to be in that hustle culture of Instagram and LinkedIn, right?
Right.
But we've also internalized a bunch of gender norms, right? Women are really taught not to brag and not to be overly confident, but men are not taught to do that. Men are taught to brag. They are taught to be confident, but women are literally taught not to do that.
Yep.
And I saw that in my 27 years of being partners with men. They were wonderful men. A lot of the problems that I had were my fault because I didn't know these things about myself at that time. I didn't realize that I needed female mentors that I could go to that would have helped me. That would have helped me a lot.
Oh yeah.
And I stuck to myself and stayed in my own little place and tried to do everything myself. So, you know, it's that internalized gender norms. But let's also be honest. Capitalism, class, feeling like success looks a certain way, right? And of course, as I've been talking, trauma, grief, and transition, those types of things are all going to increase our vulnerability to imposter syndrome just by the nature of how vulnerability will heighten a lot of those
For
feelings.
sure.
So, it's coming from all sources.
It is.
And
It
it's
is.
getting worse as the world is getting more chaotic.
It is. I grew up in a blue collar family. Everybody was a mechanic or this or that, worked in a factory, whatever. And I kind of like tended towards working with the guys because I have a pretty raunchy sense of humor, and a lot of women can't handle me.
Mm-hmm.
So I love it when I find a woman like you that can handle my
Uh-huh.
insanity.
Uh-huh.
And I I think that might be part of where I have my imposter syndrome, because I was working with the guys and they were like, you can't do this, you can't do this, and I do it and they're like, huh, you can do that. And I'm like, it's nothing. Like, just have to let it roll off my back while I'm watching these guys slap asses and be like, yeah, you did that. And it just blows my mind how it all just kind of works together, and it's a mess. It's a mess. And it's
Well,
not just us.
all those years that I worked with men, I thought they would just notice
Mm-hmm.
all the
Mm-hmm.
fabulous things I was doing. And it was towards the end when I started to really realize I was probably needed to, find something, that worked better for me, because I was realizing that they had not been picking up what I was putting down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that they saw me the way I saw myself. And I think that was a breakthrough for me to finally say to myself, you know what, a lot of this is me, and I need to have the strength and the self-confidence to be able to go figure out something other than this, because this is just not really my lane.
Right.
And so I'd been in that lane for so long that it was hard. But I do feel like I've worked through a lot of imposter syndrome, and I'm an example that, I still suffer from it. The book is big, but I've handled the book better than I probably would have 2 years ago. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that's important.
That's a good thing. The book, definitely, I did notice it with the book for sure.
One of my best friends is an English professor. And so
Yeah.
I'm horrified. I felt like I had to, even with her, I was like, this is the smallest book. I'm kind of nervous. I'm a little embarrassed. And you know what she told me? She gave me this is why we need to be more honest and reach out to our women friends, because she is an English professor. And she wrote, I put something in the chat, and I said, I'm just really embarrassed. It's not very big. It's not super academic. And she wrote back and she said, one of the most powerful books ever written was 103 pages, I think it was. And it was a book about the Holocaust that she teaches. And that helped me to really, and I'm not even sure I would have had the giddy up to say that to her a couple of years ago. I would have just kept trying to fake it till I made it, and just hope that she would think that it was good because she's a professor, but it was actually saying it out loud that actually put me in the position where she said that. And if I hadn't said it, I wouldn't feel better.
Right. Oh,
when
yeah.
we internalize it, when we keep it quiet, when we don't go to other women, when we don't go to our support people and ask and say, I just did this, I'm feeling real proud of myself. We need people to lift us up. We need to say it out loud, which really dovetails delightfully into, let's talk about what can help if you have identified that you have some imposter syndrome. Right. And number one is going to be to name it, to say it.
Yep.
I have it.
Yep.
Right. To say it. This is imposter syndrome. This is not reality. I did that. I'm good enough. Right. Naming it. Number one. Number two, let me ask you, Kristen, do you have a badass file?
No.
You need a badass file then. We all need a badass file. We need to track receipts for how amazing that we are. And one suggestion is to put a folder on your phone and to track your wins, compliments, moments that you nailed it. I actually started this.
That's awesome.
I actually started it. Every time you have a tiny little win, you don't even need to say it out loud. You go to your phone and you open up your notes and you put it in there. I helped a lady at the grocery store reach for something, or somebody complimented me on the farmer's market, or
Right.
I got this accomplished, or the mayor said that I did a great job. Write those things down, just
Right.
teeny tiny little snippets. And that's going to help you to go back and look at them throughout time, right? And you'll start to see all the tiny little wins that you're getting everywhere that you usually forget about or we dismiss.
Here is my question though. As a natural pessimist, and I say this knowing full well I am glasses half empty, everything is shit until it proves me otherwise. How the hell am I supposed to do that? Because that's where I get stuck. Because I'm like, I bought 60 chickens. I lost 47 of them, and I am the worst fucking farmer in the world. Now, I talked to you, and I told you, I know the logic that livestock, dead stock, whatever. I wasn't in the right frame of mind to deal with, all of that at the moment. But I'm like, okay, well, I'm the worst. I got to sell everything and get out of this because I can't do it anymore.
Well, but here's the reality. You got 60 chickens for like 25 cents when they're normally like $4 to $6. They were on clearance. And the suggestion is that this is not going to go well, just simply by virtue of the fact that this is the circumstances under which you got these things. And
True.
It's a trial and error kind of thing, right? Like I wouldn't know what to do with 2 chickens.
But that's the problem.
But you're past me, and this is the problem. The problem is you think that because you have some chickens that you should know how to handle 60 baby ones, right? That's unrealistic. It's trial and error. I'm pretty sure lots of people lose little baby chicks. That's why you can buy them through FedEx and ship to your house.
That's
and
true.
Like, buy them in bulk. But I know, Kristen, we've talked and talked and talked. You've already identified like 10 things, good little moments, badass moments you could have put down in there just in dealing with the farmer's market. You'll have several today. And if you notice them, your brain will start to look for more of that stuff. And that's really the cognitive change. When you start acknowledging, oh my God, my friend told me that the best book was only 103 pages and mine will be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm writing that down. That's badass. Okay, I'm a badass. Oh, I got this.
Right.
And every time I now I'm looking for those moments in my life a little bit more. And, a lot of it's manifesting. Okay. Another thing that can help is to phone a friend, or text a friend, which is pretty much what we do, right?
All day long.
Kristen, am I losing it? Or am I suffering from imposter syndrome, or should I be embarrassed that my book's only 113 pages long, right?
Right.
Like that's kind of pretty much what we do. We all need friends that are safe space.
Yes.
And maybe you need to even say to your friend, hey, listen, when I have the word listen, comma, and I tell you what's going on, that is a cue that I do not want you to help me solve this problem. I need you to lift me up.
Right.
Whenever I use the word listen, I need you to lift me up. Or, tell your friends what you need from them. Because now that I know this, I was thinking, wow, 60 chickens, 60 chicks, those are loud little mother truckers back there. Oh, they're all dead. Oh, that sounds right to me. That's like me getting all the plants from clearance from the Lowe's clearance section and being surprised that they don't turn into beautiful birds of paradise, right?
Right.
Although I should be able to bring a bird of paradise back to life from the clearance section.
Need...
But the point here is that I would have helped you put it in perspective. I was just so fascinated with the process. I was asking you all about it because I've never had 60 chicks before.
Right.
And
so one of the things that you do that I appreciate when I'm like freaking the hell out and you're like, hold on, I don't know whether you need me to do this or do this. And I'm like, oh shit, I don't know what you need to do either. And then I have to think about this. And then it helps take me off the crazy train for a little bit. So that is something that is absolutely invaluable. And you're like one of the first people in my life ever to do that.
My
And
therapist would be very proud of me because I would not have probably done that 2 years ago.
put this
Gotta
in
be
your
honest.
badass file. That is absolutely an invaluable tool to have, is somebody, even if it's just one person, to
You know
have.
what? Hearing you say that, I know that there are other people in my life that I probably need to be more like that with. And I will say that sometimes friendships can grow a little frustrating because you're not sure what to do to help them. And I think what I need to do is be a little bit more with them the way I am with you,
Mm-hmm.
and be a little bit more, what would you like me to do
Mm-hmm.
in this moment? Because I know that I'm appreciating it more when my husband asks me those questions.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's basic therapeutic stuff, right?
It is. It's like we're learning how to like be better people.
Yeah. Well, another thing that can help, Kristen, is accepting discomfort. And this is hard for a lot of us.
Uh-huh.
Confidence follows courage, right? Confidence follows courage. It's a really important statement. It's not the other way around. We don't become courageous because we're confident. We become confident because we're courageous. Being courageous is scary.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to step out there. And one of the, if you're a soloist, if you're an expert, if you're a perfectionist, you don't want to step out there. You're just afraid to do it. And I will tell you that something that changed my life, I think really helped me address the imposter syndrome that I saw in my own life, was this quote right here.
Yes.
Done is better than perfect. And I put it on my iPad holder, as you can see, and I looked at it and I read it and I wrote it down many, many times, because that was not me. I do
Right.
feel I had some perfectionist in me at some point. If I took the project on, I had to do it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to start a podcast, I need all the perfect stuff. I need to know all the history. I need to know
Yep.
the software. I need to know what I'm going to use for this. I need to know how format works. I need to know how to get it onto Apple. Like, I needed to know everything beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized was, done is better than perfect, but clarity only comes with action sometimes. There
Mm-hmm.
comes a point in time where you just have to be brave.
Yep.
It's scary. You got to
Yep.
jump off of the side of the pool and try to swim.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just shuttle along the side of the pool, you're never going to get in. You're just never going to get in. You have to accept that you're going to fail, that it's going to be uncomfortable, that you're going to have to look people in the eyes and be like, I didn't do it. I tried, but I didn't do it. That part was really hard, right?
Right.
I tried to start a TikTok channel and but it didn't work, right? Like, you have to be willing to fail, because success only comes through failure.
Right. And trying to teach kids that in a world where it's so competitive, even in 5th and 6th grade, is mind blowing. My daughter just finished 5th grade, and we noticed some things about her schoolwork, and we were like, what is going on? And her teacher said to me, she doesn't have the self-confidence that she did at the beginning of the year. Now, there's a million reasons, and I'm sure part of that is puberty. Hoo-hoo, great.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Trying to show my kid, you have to fail to succeed.
Yeah.
It's like I show her daily that mommy can fail, and we still are moving forward. And so that's one thing I don't remember being taught, that you have to fail to succeed. We were taught, not to be sore losers and things like that. That's great. But I don't remember seeing my parents fail. We only saw the good stuff.
I gotta tell you, Kristen, I fear that my husband and I did a lot of that with our kids. And looking back, I now see that we were, he was a boomer, I was an Xer. We were just trying to, do the things, have the house, put the, the kids and a picket fence and the job and this, and I didn't see a lot of fighting, right? My mom was divorced. I don't even remember a lot of it. And my mom never brought problems to me, right? And so I thought that it was a good thing to not bring the problems to your kids, to not, fight in front of your kids, to not argue. I was very quiet. I was definitely that kind of person. And I realized that wasn't in their best interest. And they have to see everybody try and fail. And I want you to know that you have something for your badass receipts file. You show your daughter daily that it's okay to fail. That's a win.
Yeah, that's true.
A win.
That is
and
true.
The last way to help us move through the imposter syndrome after naming it, getting your badass file, calling or texting a friend, having somebody who's there for you, accepting the discomfort. And the last thing, Kristen, is borrowing someone else's belief in you, right? Like sometimes you don't think you can do the farmer's market, but I think you can. I know you can, right? And so sometimes you just have to borrow my faith and use it as your courage, right? You have to take somebody else's belief in you, and that's where you find the courage to do the scary thing.
Yeah.
Because you've got to step forward in order to be successful.
Absolutely.
And you got to be able to appreciate yourself and to celebrate your own wins. And lastly, we should all be celebrating other women's wins, other people's wins, without anybody having to ask, knowing that we struggle in this area.
Right.
I have found myself going out of my way to be very celebratory for other people when good things happen to them, because I suspect that in their lives they are not asking for that, and they're not experiencing that very often. So I'm kind of a love bomber when I come across somebody who has a little win or a little success. And only because I don't know that they're getting a lot where they are at. So maybe we just all need to do a little bit more of that.
I do the same thing. And I almost wonder if it's because it's something that I am missing. You know what I mean? Like we're overcompensating for certain things like that, because I do that a lot, but also it's because I want other people to know that, we see them. I see that you're doing and you're trying and you're doing amazing,
Yeah.
So having those people are definitely needed.
So some takeaways for the listeners from this episode today is, if you're struggling with this, if you're listening to this episode and these things are hitting home for you, you're definitely not alone. Obviously, Kristen and I both experienced this in some way, shape, or form, but imposter syndrome is not a sign that you're unqualified. It's a sign that you're actually doing something very bold and brave. And that alone, you need to remind yourself, it's very bold and brave to do anything new. And I would give our listeners a challenge, Kristen, to just try tracking one win this week, just one, reminding yourself that being scared doesn't mean you're wrong. It doesn't mean that you're going to fail, right?
Absolutely.
Those are some things our followers can do this week.
Yes, I like that. Those are great. And I want to know who took the little 5-question quiz with us. And I'm curious to know who has imposter syndrome and what kind.
Yes. I think it's hard because a lot of these definitely are comorbid, right?
Absolutely.
A lot of these fall into the similar category, along with ADHD, depression, anxiety, being on a spectrum, being in a marginalized group. All of these things come together. Imposter syndrome is not a recognized psychological condition.
Right.
It's an experience that causes us to doubt our skills and successes. Right. So we can work through this. This is something that we can control and we can work through. So congratulations, everybody. We probably all got it. And now we know a few ways to help ourselves through it. And I hope that this has helped some of our followers today.
I hope so. This is actually maybe the first episode I have thought to myself, wow, we actually came up with solutions too. We didn't just complain or tell our stories. We actually did something today.
Yes, we did. I'm going to be coming to the table with a few more solutions at the end, so that our listeners will always have a few things to take away, so that they can help take the things we've been talking about and change some things in their lives. So there you go.
I like it. Well,
all right.
I guess that's it for this week.
That's it for this week.
For a while.
It's getting pretty nice out there. We got to start enjoying the weather. I like the sun. Well, the sun just means that you've got more animals to take care of and farmers markets and kids that are home.
We'll talk more next week about what? Who knows? Who knows?
Well, you know what? We're going to come up with something pretty good.
Pretty awesome. I'm sure of it.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today on High Heels and Hay Bales. If you laughed, learned something, or just had a good time, make sure to follow wherever you listen.
And don't forget, we've got even more for you. Head over to highheelsandhaybales.com and subscribe to our newsletter and Substack for exclusive behind-the-scenes content, bloopers, and tips you didn't even know you needed.
You can also connect with us on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Send us your questions, funny stories, or topic ideas, and we'd love to hear from you.
Until next time, stay grounded, stay laughing, and stay out of trouble. Well, mostly.
See you next week.